right, so I'm gonna start out with a story. So last July, a few months ago, I had been wanting a longboard for a really long time, okay? So somebody had blessed me with an Amazon gift card, and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna use this for. Like, I'm gonna get on Amazon, but not that much, whatever. And so I just had it for a while, and then all of a sudden it hit me. I'm gonna get a longboard. This is my time. And so I go on Amazon, I order this longboard. It's really cute. It's like pink, and it has like blue little, and then the wheels are orange and whatever. It's really cute. Okay, anyways. So, yes, I do know how to ride a longboard. Not perfectly, but I can get up and down the parking lot here. So, anyways, a few months ago, the longboard comes in. I'm really excited to use it. In our high school, we just had a summer event, which was like a 2-day like camp experience. And so I was tired. Are you serious? I had like maybe 3 minutes of sleep the last 2 days. Like I was so tired and just like drained, but also like on a spiritual high. And so it was the spiritual high side of me that was like, this is a good time to ride. Like it's like almost midnight. This is your time. And go do it. Okay, so I'm in the parking lot. We like literally just packed everything up. I think there were probably like this many people left in the building. And I was like, I'm just gonna go out really fast. Okay, so I was totally alone out in the parking lot, right out here, okay? Right out here. And so I get the longboard and I'm getting some speed, you know what I'm saying? And I'm thinking to myself, this is stupid. I was leaving for Tulsa the next day. So I'm like, you're gonna hurt yourself and you're gonna crack your phone. This is just what's going through my head. I thought, you're better than that, Kalista. Come on, you're not going down. You're fine. So I'm out there. Actually, it's the other way. But anyways, so I'm picking up speed and everything's fine. I'm doing laps. You go down, there's like a nice little decline and then you loop back up and I'm going around. And I've gone around probably like 3 times. Well, this time I go down, I make the loop. I'm coming back up and I'm like trying to get back up the hill. And next thing I know, okay, nobody's out there. Next thing I know, I am on the ground. I don't know where my longboard went, but it was gone. And the best part is I didn't like land like you're on your side. I'm gonna show you. I literally landed like this. Like, I'm not kidding. I thought I broke my hips in half. I thought I split. Like, I didn't even know I could sit like that. But I, out of nowhere, land on the ground. And like, I had Hokas on. And I had like burn, like on the insides. And then I had bruises and like scrapes up my leg. And I just like sat there on the ground like this for a while. And I was like, okay, hold on. There was a group of people like getting ready to come out. So they're gonna be coming out here soon. And I will not be caught dead, sitting in the middle of the parking lot like this, like crying. I was like, I have to get up. And so I literally was like, I honestly might have like fractured my hips or something because I came down so fast. And I got up and I was like, oh, this is bad. And I think I probably like chipped it was my phone screen, thank God. But like hurt myself, chipped my phone screen. I was like, I should have listened, God. But I get up. And I'm like hobbling back to my car. Like I'm just trying to make it to my car before this group of guys comes out because I was like, there is no way I'm about to be like sitting in the back lot in a split, like in tears. And then next thing you know, Brendan Simpson zooming around the parking lot. And I was like, thank you, God, I made it to my car. So I'm like walking to my car like this. Like I couldn't move. I wasn't being dramatic. I genuinely was like, and I got to my car, I texted my friend, I was like, you're not gonna believe what just happened. And then unfortunately, I had asked the guy that does like our IT here at the church if there were cameras out there, because I was really hoping I'd have some footage for you guys, but there isn't any, unfortunately. But anyways, the whole point to that was there wasn't really much of a point, I just have been really dying to share that story. But if we're gonna learn anything, it probably would have been nice to have some friends out there to help me up, you know what I'm saying? Like, it would have helped to get me in my car. But anyways, that really was it. I just want to share the story. Thank you. So there's 3 different reasons that we're going to go through tonight of why God-centered relationships matter. Again, remember that we're not talking about not having friends that don't believe like you, but we're talking about the people that are going to be there when you fall in half off your skateboard in the middle of the night and you're ready to cry and go home. Like you need somebody to pick you up. Who are those people? And so we're gonna be talking about 3 reasons why it matters that we have godly friends. Are you ready? All right. The first reason is, number 1, is advice. One may provide you with a truth, and another will provide you with the truth. There's a lot of people that'll give you a truth, but there's only one, maybe a few, that'll give you the truth. It would have been easy if one of my friends were there when I was laying on the ground, for them to be like, you're the best longboarder ever. You got it, just get back up. But there would have only been probably one Alexa being like, are you stupid? Get up and go to bed. You've been here like 48 hours at this point. Get up and go to bed. And so some of them will give you a truth, something that you want to hear, but a few will give you the truth. In 1 Corinthians 15, 31 through 34, it says, for I swear, dear brothers and sisters, that I face death daily. This is as certain as my pride in what Christ Jesus our Lord has done in you. And what value was there in fighting wild beasts? Those people in Ephesus, if there will be no resurrection from the dead. And if there is no resurrection, let's feast and drink, for tomorrow we die. Here we get to the point. Don't be fooled by those who say such things, for bad company corrupts good character. Think carefully about what is right and stop sinning. For your shame, I say that some of you don't know God at all. It might seem pretty heavy for what we're talking about, but the point is Paul was rebuking the people that he loved because they were getting away from the truth that kept them safe. These people were starting to question the resurrection, which would completely debunk the whole gospel. Like that resurrection, like no resurrection, no point. Like would completely get them off track. And so Paul, in his love for them, out of a godly relationship with them, is rebuking them and correcting them because he knows that bigger than their feelings right now, they need the truth because they're going to get in a place where they're in danger. They're going to get in a place where they don't want to be. And so he's willing to tell them what's hard to hear in a moment because he wants to keep them safe in their future. And so I ask us, what are friends? Do we only have friends that tell us what we want to hear? Do we only have friends that are just hoorah all the time? Or do we have some people that are going to be able to look us in the eyes and say, that was stupid. What are you doing? And I have a couple friends like this. Actually, all of my friends would do this, but this one stood out to me, so I'll share it. But Rochelle, Devin, his wife, is one of my best friends, okay? So Rochelle will be the first one to call me out on my crap. Alexa will be the second because I wait to tell her. But Rochelle will be the first one to call me out on my crap. And it's not always what I want to hear, but it's also what's good for me to hear. There's a lot of times where I just get going and going. I'm just in my own zone. I'm just running through life and wearing myself down to the point that I'm like, I'm gonna die. Like I just keep going and going and going. And Rochelle and eventually Alexa, once I tell her on our Friday mornings, is like, you need to stop. Like, can you just rest? Or Rochelle will be like, you're not going and hanging out with those people. Like, you're gonna stay home and you're gonna rest. And then I'll call Alexa complaining, and then she'll be like, yeah, what are you doing? You need to stay home and rest. You're not going and hanging out with those people. And they're willing to tell me things, which I know that's kind of a sillier example, but the point being, they're willing to look me in the eye and tell me what I need to hear more than just what I want to hear. Or if, like literally anything, if I'm about to do, Rochelle's the type of friend that literally I think about doing something that wouldn't be in my best interest. And she's like she just finds me. She like knows, she knows. And she's like, is that good? Is that what you want to do? And I'm like, no, I don't know. But she's somebody that can look me in the eye when I'm getting off, when I'm gonna do something that's not gonna keep me safe, that's not gonna help protect my peace. She has looked me in the eye so many times and been like, Kalista, is your peace worth that? I'm like, no, it'd be fun though, but it's not worth it. But we all need those people because it's out of actual love. We might think that we wanna be surrounded by people that'll tell us what we wanna hear, but it's not even based in a real love for them, because if they really loved us, they would put their own feelings on the line to tell you what you need to hear, even if it made you mad at them. They would be willing to tell you what you needed to hear. And I'm just going to go on a side trail here, because this is one of those things, this is advice that you might not want to hear, but it's because I love you. And I've run into this situation too many times in ministry. Listen, this is really a side tangent, okay? So just buckle up. Listen, it is okay to have friends of the opposite sex, okay? But listen, seriously, I am saying this because I care about you. Girls, sisters, our best friends should not be guys. Because eventually there's gonna be a guy that comes along. I'm saying this because I love you. Eventually there's gonna be a guy that comes along that doesn't like and isn't comfortable, rightfully so, with you having all these guy friends that are probably in line to date you anyways. Guys, same thing. Out of respect for future relationships, that doesn't mean you can't have guy friends, have girlfriends, but are you going to your guy friend, are you going to your girlfriend when stuff goes down? Like, who are you running to? Because what you're doing is you're creating this emotional bond, this emotional tie, that then once you have a boyfriend, your boyfriend's not gonna like you going to your guy friend to complain about your boyfriend, or girls with guys. Either way, it's gonna save you a lot of hurt and a lot of pain. And so let's be careful and let's be mindful of these things, because truthfully, it can save you a lot of time, it can save you a lot of hurt. So girls, I want to encourage you, find 5 girlfriends. That doesn't mean you can't have guy friends outside of the 5, but the 5 are who you're going to go to. Guys, have 5 guy friends that you go to when life happens. Not 5 girlfriends that are just hanging around. 5 guy friends. Because the thing is that their perspective of the situation will be one that makes sense to you. Guys don't go to girls don't go to guys to get the whole perspective and that be the only people you're talking to about the situation. That's for free. Take it or leave it. The second one is in arguments. It's important that we have godly relationships because arguments are going to happen sometimes. One may look to be right, while another may look to what is right. In an argument, are you somebody, and are your friends somebody that look to be right all the time, to have the final word all the time? Or are they people that are just looking to have a right resolution? No matter who's right, who's wrong, are they just looking to make the situation right? Because when we're in relationship with people, here's the thing. Whether it's a God-centered relationship, friendship, or not, there will be arguments. Because when you get close to people, that's the only way you can step on their toes. I can't step on Shannon's toes right now from way over here. But because Shannon and I are in a relationship and she's one of my best friends, we've stepped on each other's toes sometime. But because we have that foundation of God, because we have that foundation of right relationship, we've been able to continue to work through those things, and it's brought us closer together. In our relationships, when they're God-focused and they're handled in the right way, and you have 2 people seeking to make it right, it's gonna end up bringing you closer together. Same thing with any other friendship. We have opportunities all the time. I have opportunities all the time to step on people's toes. And I probably do. I probably have stepped on some of your toes already tonight. But it's only when there's that relationship that you can step on their toes. But when it's God-centered, you can have that expectation, or that, I don't even want to say expectation, but you can have the hope that you both are going to come at it from a godly manner. From the same understanding that you've been forgiven of much. From the same understanding that you've received grace and need to give grace. There's a different starting point. There's a different starting line when you guys come to an argument and you have to work through it. And so Proverbs 29:22, it says, an angry person starts fights. A hot-tempered person commits all kinds of sin. I hope these aren't describing any of your friends. Proverbs 20, verse 3. It says, avoiding a fight is a mark of honor. Only fools insist on quarreling. Again, I hope that's not one of your closest friends. Proverbs 16:32. It says, better to be patient than powerful. Better to have self-control than to conquer a city. 1 Peter 4:8. It says, most important of all, continue to show deep love for each other, for love covers a multitude of sins. When you guys both are coming at it from a godly perspective, you have the love of God in you. Well, this is rocket science. You have the love of God in you. And so therefore, now you don't just get to respond to the situation based on what you can muster up inside, but you get to respond to the situation based on the love that you've received from God already. I don't know why. Sometimes we go into relationships, whether it's dating, whether it's a friendship, and we think that when we put two imperfect people together, it's going to make one perfect relationship. And we get surprised when we run into arguments, or we run into disagreements, or we run into things that we just don't see eye to eye on. But putting two imperfect people, maybe both God-loving, into a relationship, dating or friendship, that does not equal one perfect relationship. And so every relationship is going to have arguments. Every relationship is going to have disagreements. But why it matters that there's God at the center is because when we get into these arguments or when we get into disagreements, we're both going to be coming at it from a starting line of God's grace, a starting line of his forgiveness, of his mercy, of letting love cover a multitude of sins. We're not starting at trying to get back or trying to make them pay or trying to whatever. That's not the starting line. And so when it's God-centered, great. What about when it's not? What about when you're pursuing God with all your heart and maybe the other person isn't? Well, you still navigate arguments, but you have to have an understanding. We have to have an understanding that we might be starting at one place and they might be starting at a totally different place. And so we can't have that same expectation that we're both coming at this from love, we're both coming at this from forgiveness and mercy and grace and peace and wanting the best and wanting to make the situation right. There might be a different starting point, and it's okay. They don't know any better. But going into the argument, seeking to understand. That's what I would say in any argument. Seek to understand the other person. Before you're quick to defend your side, seek to understand where they're coming from. When somebody comes to you with something, it's a side trail. When somebody comes to you with something that upset them, something that hurt them, are you quick to be thinking in your head your response? To be like, oh, or I didn't, or are you actually listening? Are we stopping to listen to what the other person is saying? Because regardless of if it's Christ-centered or if it's somebody that doesn't know Christ, everybody wants to be understood. Everybody wants to be heard. And so let's be a people that are slow to anger, are patient, that we're gonna lead with love. Even if the other person doesn't have that same starting line, we're gonna lead with love. And love would seek to understand. Love's not ready to bulldoze over and ready to plow somebody over to get their point across or to be right. And so when it comes to arguments, we get to start from a different starting point. And I'll say this too, with dating relationships, just because you got in an argument, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. Wave my flag. Just because you had a disagreement, just because you got in an argument or a fight, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong and you need to end it. Because again, you're two imperfect people trying to have a perfect relationship, or at least a mostly good relationship. So that doesn't mean that there's some that you need to, but not every argument you get into is one warranted ending it. Sometimes, sure. If it's a pattern, for sure. But just because there's an argument, and maybe there's somebody in here that you're kind of newer to faith and you're really trying to pursue a godly dating relationship, and I'll just be the first one to break it to you. It's not going to be perfect because they're still imperfect. We're all still imperfect. So don't be surprised when you come to a place where you're in a relationship and it's not perfect. It doesn't mean that you have to end it. It doesn't mean that it's bad. We're going to keep moving along because I'm the longest person I know. All right. Yeah. Okay, number 3 is affirmation. So in Ephesians 4, verse 15, it's instead we will speak the truth in love, growing in every way more and more like Christ, who is the head of his body, the church. It says one may only affirm your feelings, and another may affirm your future. It's easy to affirm feelings, but who's the friend that's going to look you in the eyes and affirm your future? Who's the friend that's going to tell you when you're going a little bit off the rail and you're going to be able to receive? You have to be able to receive it too. But who's that friend? Do you have friends that are able to call you out? Do you have friends that are paying enough attention to you, paying enough attention to your life, paying enough attention to ask you questions, to know what it is that you want in the future, to be able to reel you back in? Caroline, Austin's wife, is one of my close friends, and I just love her so much because, again, she's one of those people that she'll just tell you as it is. Don't go to her if you don't want her to tell you as it is. Like, it's in the most loving way, but she will get straight to the point. And recently, I had a situation. That sounded bad. It wasn't really like bad. It just was a situation. And I called her. I knew what I needed to do, but I just kind of wanted that affirmation. And so I called her and I was like, I'm doing the right thing, right? She's like, well, you want this and this and this and this, and this doesn't, and this, right? And I was like, yeah. She's like, okay, well, you know what to do. I was like, yeah, you're right. But she wasn't feeding into the situation and playing into drama and playing into all these other things that she could have got twisted in. But she was very much like, I'm one to lay out the facts and let you tell me what to do. So I told her, and she's like, okay, yeah, I wouldn't. I was like, thank you. I just need a sounding board. And so we want friends that when we come to them about something, further than advice, they're not just going to affirm your feelings, but they're somebody that has your future in mind, that they're more committed to you and the plans that God has for you than they are to right now. They're not just trying to make you or say something that makes you feel good or tell you something that you want to hear or whatever, but they're more concerned about your future. And it's not to say that, if somebody doesn't know the Lord, they're not going to care about your future. But it's hard to give godly advice when you don't know God. It's okay, but it's hard to give godly advice, to give godly wisdom when you don't know God. And so when we're looking at our friendships, when we're looking at our relationships, maybe it's a dating relationship, are they somebody that's going to be able to give you godly advice, godly wisdom? Are they somebody that when you get into an argument with them, it's able to be navigated in a healthy way because you have this equal starting point? Are they somebody that's going to just affirm your feelings, or are they going to affirm your future and the things that God's called you to? And of course, we know that all of this only can be done when our relationship with God is intact. Obviously, this isn't a standard that we hold people that don't know him, because that'd be crazy. But when my vertical relationship, my eternal relationship is right, my horizontal earthly relationships can be right. And I love in Mark 12:30 through 31. You guys have all heard this, I'm sure. But it says, and you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind, and all your strength. The second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. No other commandment is greater than these. I think it's interesting that even though equally important, it still lists loving God first. He still lists that first. And when you think about it, we all were made for relationship. We weren't made to do life alone. I don't know if somebody's told you that you can do life alone and you'll be great and you don't need anybody, but that is just not true. It's not true. You need people around you. You need people that know your heart. But here's the thing. It takes us being honest and vulnerable and transparent with somebody. These relationships just don't happen overnight because we prayed for it. It happens because we're willing to take a step towards godly community. We're willing to take a step towards being vulnerable with somebody, being open with somebody. I'll be honest, when I was in high school, I just got along better with guys. Sorry, girls, they were just a little bit less drama. I had girlfriends in high school, but it was just easier to get along with guys. They're funny. And so I had a lot of guy friends. I had girlfriends, but it was fine. And when I came to the school and it was my second year, a leader in my life had a conversation with me that didn't feel good in the moment, but I am so glad he did. And he had just said, well, it was Austin. I won't leave you wondering, my boss. He's my ministry track leader at the time. But anyways, he just sat me down and encouraged me that, it's fine to have guy friends, but really, really, really encouraged me to lean into the girl friendships that I had around me, that I had them as friends, but I hadn't really leaned into it and made myself open and vulnerable with them for them to be able to speak into my life. It's not that I was confiding in the guys, but I just got along better, and then I kind of would just stuff it. But he encouraged me. He said, lean into the girl relationships around you. And for a season, I remember thinking I had a couple, but I don't think I'd ever really been truly vulnerable with them. And Caroline was one of the first people that I intentionally leaned into that relationship. I intentionally was vulnerable. I intentionally went to her and was fully honest. And let me tell you, the moment that I did that I started to do that and lean on the community around me, it's not you being a burden to somebody, but it's you leaning into the people that God has placed around you for that purpose. That I started to realize I need that. I have to have people around me that I can lean on, that are going to encourage me, that are going to affirm my future, that are going to tell me things that I don't want to hear. And it was only then, once I started taking steps towards that relationship, that we were able to build this trust, that now she can look me in the eyes today and be like, that's stupid. What are you doing? She says it nicer than that. But she can be honest with me and say, is that what you really want? But it only was for me taking a step towards that community first. It didn't happen just because God said it, we should do it. It happened by me getting an understanding okay, I need to lean in. There are people around me that God has placed in my life that are divine relationships. They're divine appointments that God has put in my life for me to be able to do and accomplish all the things that He's called me to do. And there are so many people like Alexa and Shannon and Rochelle and Caroline and Pastor Janice and Mary Quigley and Amy Reed and Michelle Board and all these people that are divine relationships in my life now. That I can't imagine life without them. I can't imagine life without Shannon over here. Who else would I have mac and cheese dates with? And paint and do all these things. And talk to you about the randomest stuff. And nerd out about band stuff. I need these people in my life. And they're divine appointments. Maybe there's somebody in here that you've been asking God a question over and over and over again. And He hasn't given you a direct answer, but He's kind of nudged you to go talk to somebody. This way? I'm talking about a little dance almost. He keeps nudging you to go talk to somebody, but you're that's not what I'm asking. Go talk to that person. I would be willing to bet that they have something that they're going to say to you because God gave it to them, that they're going to be able to speak into your situation. God uses people. We can't do this life alone. And so it takes us getting our relationship with Him prioritized first. And a few ways, real quick, and we'll wrap this up, that we can pursue our relationship with God and pursue God-centered relationships. First and foremost, it's accepting Him into your life. If you haven't said yes to Jesus, then that's the first step. The second would be daily Bible reading. Get to know Him. A prayer life. You get to know His voice. Worship. You're responding to who He is. Regular church attendance. Regular church attendance. It's great when you can come when you can come. But there is something about when you get to regularly and weekly and maybe 2 times a week come into a space where there's godly community, where you're being fed the word of God, not just the lies of the enemy and lies of the world and all these things that are opposite culture of the culture of heaven. But when you can regularly come in and be a part of what God's doing, it matters. It matters that we sit under the word regularly. Serve in church. Give your time to his house. If you haven't served, listen, I've served since I was 11. I served in church from 11 to like the end of my high school career. I had served, and like I had made some friends, but I can't say it was like life-changing. But it's because I wasn't putting myself in a position. Yes, I was serving. Yes, I was going through the motions, but I wasn't taking a step out of my comfort zone to say, this is somebody that I want to be friends with. I love the way that they pursue God. I love the way that they talk. I love the way that they lead their lives. I'm going to position myself around them more. Serve in church. You'll get to be on a team. You'll get to meet people that are going the same direction as you. You get to meet people when you're serving in church. And lastly, join a group. We got connect groups going on. Join a group. Because seriously, some of the relationships, like I've met some of my best friends in connect groups. I've met some of my best friends by serving. I've met some of my best friends by being at church regularly. It matters. When you're doing the things that God's just asked you to do already, he's able to get things to you. When we're willing to just say, God, if you said that this is important, then I'm going to be all in. If this is where you've called me to the U in Canton, Ohio, then I'm going to be all in. If this is where you've called me to Faith Family Church, then I'm going to be all in. Because it's only when we say yes to that, when we say yes to God, when we say yes to those things that he's asking us to do, that he's able to get things to us. There might be relationships in this room that you don't know each other yet, and you'll be in each other's weddings. Rochelle came to the U, 4 years ago or something, and I got to be the maid of honor in her wedding. And it was the best. But there's people that God has connected you to that you need to connect with because they're going to be somebody that you do life with. So don't miss out on that. It's important. It matters. Relationships aren't a good idea. They're God's idea. So let's be a part of what God wants us to be a part of.